Hello, my name is Melanie Tana. I love to talk about books, movies, TV shows, video games, and the story I'm currently invested in, as you probably know, is The Wheel of Time. I've been making some summary videos of the Wheel of Time books, kind of splitting them up into different parts. Today I'm going to be talking about the prologue through chapter 15, and I just ask that you be patient with my voice. Between allergies and lack of sleep, I'm losing my voice. So book 12 of The Wheel of Time. Also, Bones will just probably be behind me all the video. What? Okay. So, in book 12 of the Wheel of Time, The Gathering Storm, this is the one that Sanderson started writing after Robert Jordan's passing. And I mentioned in a short recently that it is interesting, the differences, but also they weren't super apparent to me right away, so I got a lot of interesting thoughts from people about that. And I do miss Robert Jordan's prose, but for kind of the momentum I want right now, I'm very happy with like the Sanderland vibe that Sanderson brings to the table. So the prologue opens with a Borderlander farmer named Ranald Fanwar. He's approached by the blacksmith of the village who is leaving to join the fight at Tarmangaiden, and then this farmer decides to bring his wife along and join in the fight, and they can sense a storm is coming, a different kind of storm than just weather related. And then the POV switches over to Philandra, who is returning to Ubadar after fighting with Rand. She's deciding that she wants to wait to inform Tuan that Semirog was disguised as the daughter of the Nine Moons. Semirog being one of the Forsaken who attacked Rand and destroyed his hand in the last book. Then it goes on to the battle general Tylee of the Shanshan, who recently, it was about 2 weeks before that she fought in that battle with Perrin against the Shaido Aiel, and she now sees, who is it? Yeah. Bakayr Mishima, who is shot with a Trolloc arrow and now is facing the reality of the Trollocs. For so many people, that is still such a myth. They're very real. Next in the prologue, we see some of the Forsaken. The POV is Graendale. Graendale? Anyway, meeting with the other Forsaken, wishing to be nameless instead of Moradin. And the person who's nameless is like the right hand of the Dark One. And so she wants that role instead of Moradin. Going on, Riddell Itural's army attacks the Shanshan. They kind of hide in the village and then attack. And then in the final bit of the prologue, that made me feel like this book was going to be good. Not like anything else didn't, but I was like, ooh, interesting. It was the POV of Mishima. He gets trapped by Fael and her people who follow her, and she kills him with a knife, basically saying like, I have to do what Perrin would never do. And it's sort of... it's satisfying. And then Mishima has like flashbacks to his childhood as he dies, and the prophet is killed. I think I was driving to work when I was reading it, and I was like, ooh, oh my gosh, and then I like pulled up and I had to go into work. But I thought that was very intriguing as far as the dynamic between Fael and Perrin, and her just doing probably what should be done because he was, a madman and led people to dark places. Anyway, chapter 1 opens with Wind traversing many lands, crossing over different peoples, but then being diverted when reaching Eredamon, where Rand is. And then it leads into Rand's POV, where it shows that he's hiding in Eredamon. He's in a mansion there, and he's thinking on questions of bringing lands together, worries of Graendale in Eredamon, and the Shanshan truce. So he's got a lot of concerns, obviously, in his mind, as a leader and just as a person. Nynaeve, Cadsuane, and Olivia, is that Olivia? That's what I wrote down. They want to get more info out of Semirog, but Rand won't allow them to be, brutal with her, violent, which is hard because she's one of the Forsaken. And then in that moment, Lews Therin rambles off in Rand's head about women failing to help him, and the 100 companions at the strike at Shell Ghul. And then Rand responds to him, but he responds out loud, demanding to know more. And because he speaks out loud, he kind of outs his madness more than he already has. And then, of course, Lews Therin just laughs and cries because that's what he does. On to chapter 2. Egwene is very gently bringing White Tower issues to the attention of the Aes Sedai. She has to attend Elaida at dinner and holds back from being angry because Elaida's just being ridiculous, until the point when Elaida talks of a proposed oath, a fourth oath of obedience to the Amerlin, which causes Egwene to react by dropping her like bowl of hot soup. She like dumps it on the carpet, and it's very expensive. And Elaida is she has some bad priorities in this area, so she gets very, very upset. And then later Egwene laughs while being beaten, recognizing that while Elaida causes everything to fall apart, Egwene just has to keep everyone united. So she's like, Elaida's just going to tear this tower apart herself, but I'm going to keep people together and I can do this. And it's like, I don't know, it's very impressive. I really like Egwene in these chapters. I think she handles things very well, and she's very courageous, but also clever. It's fun to read. Going into chapter 3, Aviendha and Ruark are taking note of all the refugees in Eredimon. Aviendha is trying to sort out where she fits in and why the Wise Ones are so displeased with her. She's being given more punishments, in this case because she went scouting, which is outside her duties. But she's also being given stupid, useless punishments that, like, don't actually help anything. They're just meant to, like, make her life sort of monotonous. And it's the punishment you give to someone who's really messed up, who doesn't even deserve to help out and to have any honor in the duties she's performing. And she's also worried about Rand losing himself by being too cold and distant. So, yeah. Chapter 4. Gawain and the younglings are keeping tabs on rebel Aes Sedai, and Gawain is able to kind of do this because he's familiar with Gareth Bryn's strategies, having like known him since childhood in his mother's court. But he is worried about the situation Elaida has put him in, and it seems like Gawain is kind of just floating between two sides, waiting to figure out what he needs to be doing. In chapter 5, Rand finds out from Hureen of the Sea Folk that men who can channel are either to jump off the ship, tied to rocks, or left on a desert island, and Rand tries to assure the Sea Folk that this is no longer a necessary practice, as Sidon has been cleansed. People have a hard time believing it, which is understandable. You know, something changes so quickly, you're so used to being scared of it, you've got to kind of take things with a grain of salt. And then later in chapter 5, Cadsuane and Maurice are trying to break down Samarag, who goes on this like creepy little rant thing about how she once managed to switch a man's blood with a different liquid as a form of torture, and it's very gross and dark. It's very icky, but also interesting. So I thought that was strange, but she's obviously not being broken because she's just saying creepy stuff. And if you can't like be more firm with her, then how can you get information out of her? Anyway, in chapter 6, the POV is Riddell Ituralda. He's discussing with the Shan-Chan general how he defeated them, even though he knows the Shan-Chan is still going to be a powerful force in the future. Later in the White Tower, Egwene visits Leonie, wow, I don't know, in her cell, and then the cell starts to like melt, and like the bars and the floor start to melt, pulling in Leonie, and then the Yellow Sisters, who are kind of guarding her, save her. And Egwene is very much like the Amerlin in that she's encouraging strength, responding to this bubble of evil. And then another one happens, another bubble of evil, switching some of the Brown Ashak quarters with some of the Novices quarters, and it's kind of like forcing them to interact in ways they didn't before, and it's also another sign of the times. In chapter 7, Daigen is teaching Nynaeve complex weaves, which Nynaeve just considers unnecessary, but that's Nynaeve for you. She's kind of stubborn that way. And then she joins a meeting with Rand and company in which they discuss what to do about Bandar Ibon, which is, if I'm saying that right, it's the capital of Eredimon, and they're trying to figure out what to do about Riddell and Ituralda. In chapter 8, Lelaine suggests a way to get Swan out of Gareth's service, though her feelings for him and distrust of Elaine, honestly, kind of motivate her to stick around with Gareth Bryn. And then Swan later gets to explain to Bryn the world-important reason for her original breaking of her oath to him, in that she and Moraine were the only two people to live after the delivery, I guess, of the Dragon Reborn prophecy, and she's been determined to help him out ever since. to help Rand out, or to help like the prophecy be fulfilled in that way. And then Egwene and Siwan discuss rebel politics in Tel'aran'rhiod, and Egwene has a very clever political perspective about dealing with the people, the Aes Sedai, who want to take over as the Amyrlin over the rebels, and just she's very confident and has a lot of faith. Chapter 9 opens with Perrin fixing wagons. He's ready to leave now that he's rescued Fael, despite the fact that some of his men would rather stick around for other reasons. But things are a little off with Fael based on how, like, things he senses from her. And then ends with Perrin kind of saying, like, my focus should be Rand in the last battle. I need to get to Rand. In chapter 10, Ituralde prepares for a worse Seanchan battle. He's remembering the Aiel War and Tom Merlin juggling in Camelin, which is funny to picture. And then Rand orders Ituralde to make peace with the Seanchan, kind of presenting himself as not only like the dragon, but also like a very powerful leader to the best of his Rand craziness abilities. And then he basically makes Riddell king of Eredamon and shows off at the end with weaving. He weaves like a gateway, I think. In chapter 11, Aviendha manages to stop a bubble of evil, which comes in the form of very powerful heat, starting a fire, and she channels the river with some help and quenches the fire. The Aes Sedai make comments about how powerful she is, but then say that her weaves are a little bit rough, less refined, and a little unpolished. And Melaine overhears these sisters and defends Aviendha, even praising her, which is strange because wise ones do not give praise often, and when they do, it is real and genuine. So she really means it. And so Melaine giving her this compliment, but then Aviendha being like, then why do you guys make me do these stupid chores? And I'm just waiting for Aviendha to figure it out, because I've read the part where she figures it out, and I was kind of thinking that that would be it. Anyway, we'll get to that in the future, but I just thought it was funny. That she's like, well, you're being so nice to me, and you're not even the nice one, and then why do you hate me? So that's kind of cool that the wise ones are defensive for her. In chapter 12, Egwene still manages to encourage the Sisters of the White Tower to ease tension between them and to showcase her wisdom and logic by like hypothetical scenarios that they're giving her, which is like basically testing her to see how good of an Amyrlin she is, honestly. And then Egwene gets Madani to show her the sisters who are hunting the Black Aja, and convinces them that Elaida is an illegitimate Amyrlin, given that some of the Aes Sedai who helped raise Elaida are Black Aja, which just invalidates Elaida's position because she barely had the majority vote. And if she barely had it and some of those were Black Aja, then she doesn't really have it at all. So, yeah. In chapter 13, we are seeing Gawain's perspective. He's impressing people with his sword fighting and is given an option to join the warder Sleet in his bond to the Aes Sedai Hattori. But he just wants Egwene. And then he hears that Egwene has been captured and leaves to help her, not knowing the full situation, but just given purpose in his concern for her. I recently saw a meme I hope you guys will appreciate, because I've seen a lot of Barbie memes lately, of, I'll have to find it and maybe cite who made it too. But it was so funny. It was just the Barbie and Ken poster. That she is everything, he's just Ken. Is that how it is? But it's like, Egwene is everything and he's just Gawain. And I feel like that's accurate. That like we don't get much of him, and their romance was so sudden. Bless Robert Jordan's heart. I was not anticipating that romance either. And obviously Egwene has like other things she's more concerned about, but Gawain's just like, ah yes, purpose. So he's going to help Egwene. He believes that she will be like stilled or executed or something, and he just wants to go help her. Even though she's got things like pretty under control, though I think she will maybe need his help on like the physical force side of things, but as far as politically, she's doing excellently. In chapter 14, Cadsuane and Sorelea are bonding, which is kind of like surprising to Cadsuane. And they're bonding particularly over the interrogation of Semirhage, who says that the Aiel should be ashamed for their promises they failed to keep, kind of trying to get under Sorelea's skin that way. But then Cadsuane shows Sorelea the male Adam, and they both agree that Rand's heart needs to like open and be softened before the last battle. Which, duh, Rand, come on. Anyway, bless his heart. In chapter 15, Rand meets Moradin in the world of dreams and is surprised now recognizing him as Ashamael. Wow, you know, you guys know what I'm saying. And it's revealed that the Dark One can bring his servants back from regular death, but not from balefire. So Rand's like, okay, so I can't just regular kill you, I have to use balefire every time. Good to know. And then Moradin says it won't matter if the Dark One is defeated because he'll be back again. So Rand feels this pressure to do more than just kind of win, or like to fully end this in the last battle. And then there's something very interesting that I liked world-wise and magic-wise. Rand can see what's called the Saw in Moradin's eyes, I think that's how you say it, which are an indication that one has been channeling too much of the direct source of the Dark One's power. And it's like little black flecks in the eyes, which I thought was interesting. Then it goes on to Min. She's reading the book left behind by the nice old scholar that she knew, and chats with Rand about Lews Therin. And then later Aviendha hears news that the Seanchan will meet with Rand about potential peace being made. But because of the leashing of the Shaido, the Aiel are eager to eventually defeat the Seanchan. That's kind of where it's at. So that is, as far as I'm doing a review, I'm gonna probably split each of the last 3 books up into 3 different parts. This one will be quite quick. I got through it pretty fast. That's kind of how reading it feels right now. And I've had more chances to listen to the audiobook with like longer drives and stuff like that. So I am invested and really excited and sad that like I'm on the 3rd to last book, but it's also very weird to me that I'm there. But I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to continue reviewing it. I'm gonna try to be a little bit more consistent since I'm doing 3-parters for these books to get those videos out to you guys. And I'm really interested in Brandon Sanderson's writing and things. I forget that it's him, even though there's an obvious difference and a little bit more directness in some areas. And there are times though that I do feel like characters are a little less petulant than they are in earlier books, and I don't know if that is, I don't know what that is, if they've just matured or if it really is Sanderson's writing that changes that a tiny bit, because sometimes like the women or the men complaining to each other is just so much and I just want them to shut up. So with all the love in my heart, I love these characters, but I think Sanderson kind of softens the annoying parts for me and is able to bring out like the true heart of the character that Robert Jordan is just a little bit more subtle in delivering to you. Like I think Robert Jordan will be like, the women are complaining, the men are complaining, they don't understand each other, they get annoyed with each other, and then that's very overt. But then there will be a moment where a character will be doing something awesome and you're like, oh yeah, he was writing that the whole time. Whereas I feel like Sanderson just kind of gives you a little bit more of the awesome and holds back on the annoying, just that much more. And it helps me to enjoy reading these characters. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm excited to read more Wheel of Time and to talk more Wheel of Time with you. And even when I finish the books, I have a feeling I probably won't stop talking about the Wheel of Time. So please stick around and enjoy, and let me know your thoughts on these last 3 books. I will see you next time with another video.